And now I'm here with Chris to talk about the. All right, there was a Square Enix booth, but it was pretty much the Final Fantasy booth, wasn't it?
There was three Final Fantasy games on the show. There was Final Fantasy X HD remake. There was 13.3 Lightning Returns, which was actually really good, and Final Fantasy 15. Big news being, Versus 13 is now Final Fantasy 15. Ryan wants his mic back.
There was also Final Fantasy 14 that you missed. They're relaunching the MMO. It's a Final Fantasy game like other one.
No, there were a lot of people that were excited about 14. And as an MMO, like to get people that excited is a fair shout. Like, pretty impressive.
Do you think there were people like I saw like a little line, but I didn't think people were that excited for the MMO.
They were running a competition, and I think you had to beat Ifrit. There was a group of, I think, 10 people that were trying to fight Ifrit, and if they beat him, then they won a T-shirt, so free hype, basically. I played Final Fantasy X, the HD remake. 10 is my favorite of all the Final Fantasy games, and I have to say, it didn't look that great, but as Damien pointed out pretty aptly, it'll look fantastic on a Vita screen, which is exactly where I'm going to play it.
Just back to the Final Fantasy 14. I found that they didn't actually communicate what that was like, because we all knew Final Fantasy 14 was out. It came out a year ago or something.
It was dog shit.
Yeah, and everyone panned it. Like they did, and then they re-release it, but they don't say what they did. They don't say like, we were chatting to some random guy in the line to Lightning Returns, and that's where I found out that they actually redid the whole engine and like all the assets and pretty much made it another game.
Yeah, I learned more about Final Fantasy 14 from that guy than from any of their marketing material. Like, it's some weird thing. Like, they really didn't market 11 either, the old MMO. But that same guy said that 11 and 14 were the only ones he ever played. It's really strange. Yeah, I mean, it looked like the guy said. They've completely remade the engine. They basically made it more like WoW, because it was a completely different system beforehand, and really, really just went down the toilet as far as the engine and just the general gameplay got panned.
So it's if you can't beat them, join them. Even that.
Yeah, I guess. I did play 13.3, which I played the first 13 game and had the same experience as quite a lot of people, which was Tunnel Simulator, really not that fun. I don't want to play through 15 hours of tunnel to get to an open world, no matter how good it looks and how good the music is, which it is. Fantastic as it is all Final Fantasy games. But yeah, I skipped out on 13.2. And yeah, looking at this one, it looks really good. Like, the battle system is completely different, but I am a little worried by something that you pointed out, which is that the system wouldn't really lend itself to a party of players. So, I don't know, maybe you have your companions there with you and they control themselves, or maybe there's some kind of weird turn-based time system, or maybe, like the demo, it's all just lightning and you're one player basically doing a single-player battle. I'm not sure.
I still don't think that will make it a better or worse game if you're only playing by lightning. Like,
well, it seems like that. Just judging by the environments that you go through in that demo that we played, like, it seems a lot more open, and the gameplay is more akin to like Persona 4. Like, you run around an arena or an area, and there'll be sort of avatar monsters there, and you can attack them. And if you attack them before they attack you, you get a bonus in the fight. Then it opens up a more traditional kind of battle arena, and it's not like turn-based, which is kind of strange with a Final Fantasy game. Same with 15 as well. It's not turn-based either. I don't know. How do you feel about that? The lack of turn-based fighting.
I thought they have done like a couple of other non-turn-based. Isn't 12 real time as well?
Yeah, 12 was the first one where they really stepped away from it. Obviously, not including 11. 12 was a real half-breed. It was like there was a turn-based element to it. I think you could stop time or something like that, and you could like queue up moves. But yeah, every single iteration has been taken further and further away from the turn-based style, which I have to admit it feels weird for a Final Fantasy game, but I think they needed to do it. I went back and played an old JRPG turn-based style game last year, Lost Odyssey, and it really didn't do it for me. Like, I think I'll be able to play through 10 and not get bored to tears because it's 10 and there's all the nostalgia along with it for me, but yeah, I think we're past that, in the West at least.
What I was going to say is that I'm surprised to see that each one of those games is pretty different. Like, you have 13 and, you know, like you said, corridor shooter for like 20 hours, and then, corridor RPG, and then it opens up and then closes back down again. 13.2 was a bit different, where you could...
Did you play 13.2?
I've played a little bit of 13.2, about 5 or 6 hours, and you can pretty much jump in between like certain chapters back and forth, and you can actually get things that you've missed with abilities and stuff that you've got later on and stuff.
So it's kind of linear open world. Like, it's a linear pathway, but you can travel around that linear pathway as you want. Or
Some are still like the corridors, and then like you got some like because you go to different times in a timeline, and some are like big towns that you go through and get side quests off everyone, and then
That's another thing I missed out of 13 as well. The historic like Final Fantasy towns, they weren't there, and hopefully they'll be there for 13.3. But the big news: Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy Versus 13 they've been working on it for like 6-7 years, some crazy amount of time. People have been clamoring for it. People pissed off. They heard about it. And 3 years later, they still haven't heard about it again. The reveal says 13.3 Versus 13 is now Final Fantasy 15, and I am super excited about it. It looks fantastic.
have we seen enough to be excited? Like,
We've seen it in the flesh. It's out at an E3 press conference. They've shown a trailer for it. That to me says they're acknowledging its existence for the first time in a long time, and yeah, everything that they showed got me excited. Like,
so the mere fact of it existing is enough to excite a Final Fantasy fan.
well, more just because people were questioning whether or not it was a thing anymore, whether or not it actually existed. Like, and seeing that they've rebranded it, they've obviously done a lot of work on it because that shit looks fantastic, and they're advertising it. To me, says it's going to be out within the next couple of years, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, because they haven't got enough Final Fantasy from the other 25 games. Yeah.
No, with the remakes as well, it's getting a bit crazy.
So that's pretty much a good wrap up of the Square Enix booth. There was Saints Row and stuff, but
Saints Row was awesome. Saints Row was really good. If you want a funny trailer, check out the Saints Row.
I didn't like it for the record. Anyway,
Fuck you.
yeah, so that will do it